You're listening to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast, the podcast that keeps your practice sharp and your clients happy. I'm your host, immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and every week we're bringing you insights, tips, and real-world conversations with top immigration attorneys and industry leaders. Whether you're here to grow your practice, stay on top of the latest trends, or get inspired, you're in the right place. Ready? Let's go. Hello, fellow toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 427 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast. A great regular, Kevin Gregg of the Immigration Review Podcast, coming and talking about some interesting cases for immigration law that affect federal courts and BIA. Must listen to if you're a practitioner, and it's really good to have this because he has his own great podcast where he goes through all of them in detail, which you 100% should listen to if you're doing immigration, appeals, removal defense, detained cases, and all that. But for those who are like me that don't touch these cases, you need to have hearing what's going on and some things that potentially affect us and have an idea what's going on, which these, once a month ones are perfect for that. So we're going to discuss cases that came out in September. And he's so kind of come on the show. Definitely check out his podcast, Immigration Review Podcast, found wherever podcasts can be found. Before we start, I want to thank our sponsor for the magazine. We have a magazine at the Toolbox, a trade magazine called Immigration Toolbox Magazine. You go to iltbox.com, click on the magazine link to see it. They're also sponsoring this episode. It's very kind of them. Immigration by Serenade. You know about them. All right, let's talk about your case management system. Maybe you're still drowning in spreadsheets or stuck with software that feels like it's from 2015. Our friends at eimmigration recently published an ultimate immigration software buyer's guide. It's exactly what I wish I had when I was shopping for our firm's system, with real comparisons of the features that actually move the needle. Head to get.eimmigration.com/resources to grab your copy and pick up a case management system like a pro. Get.eimmigration.com/resources. Thank them and also the various seminars they're putting on. Definitely get on their newsletter list. Every month they're putting out really good seminars to help immigration lawyers be better at managing stress, learning about AI updates and all that. And I also just did an interview with them about updates to their system, their case management software. Really, really interesting, neat stuff coming up. That'll probably be posted in a week or two. You definitely want to listen to that to get to know either if you're a user of Immigration by Serenade, what's coming up and what things they have. But also if you're thinking about other software, what's out there, it's a great way to get familiar with them and the company itself, family-owned company. It's really cool. So before starting the show, I also want to remind you, we have a community page and we're trying to get it to a larger number. We're almost 400 people right now. It's a community. It's not a page like on Facebook. It's different group software I purchased. So we have our private community of just U.S. immigration lawyers. Just U.S. lawyers could join, even those who want to become immigration lawyers. I think once we get to the 1,000 number, that's when the discussions could get really good and the information sharing could get really high. And so we just need a couple hundred more people. And I think we're going to get it because there are hundreds of people listening to this podcast. And it's free. You just, give an email address and you could join. What we need to just verify some way possible that you're a U.S. immigration attorney. So we recommend going to our website, go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com or just iltbox.com and going to the community page and filling out the information with your contact info, and we'll add you to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox community page. It's on a website called circle.so. That way we can share a lot of content with you, free content, behind wall content. So we don't have to give a bunch of disclaimers that we usually have to do about immigration law because the public could see this video. But as lawyers, so we can talk business to business. And there's, all sorts of stuff, how to do an NIV waiver, free how's 245I work, hour breakdown of all the case law about that. That was so important for everyone to listen to. How the 3 or 10 year barks work. That's free too. It's like these really important ones that you have to know. I put in there free. There's also premium courses, how to do a marriage, how to launch a marriage green card office like mine and be successful at it, how the contract works, what you got to watch out for, consultations, admissibility. There's a lot more. If you want to learn about that, just email me or go to our website and make a request. And happy to jump on a quick call about that. Again, you have to be a U.S. immigration lawyer to do that. Having said all that, none of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an immigration attorney about your case, but you all know that already. Let's get it started. Hey, Kevin, good to see you again.
Great to see you, John. Happy to do our monthly cases. I got good cases this month. I always do.
Yeah, I mean, we're entering a really fascinating period because like the groundbreaking cases that are popping up, and like even that free speech one that comes out, it's not purely immigration, but it's based on the one with the Palestinian activist. Did you see the judge put a
did.
thing?
Yeah, I did. I did not read his 150 page treatise, but good on him. Good on that judge. Good on all judges who are stepping up and into their role as judges, and that includes immigration judges who more than federal judges are putting their career on the line to do so.
Yeah, that's a serious thing because you think about judges and some of them there are judges who misuse their power, and they're just it's like a cush job to a certain extent, and a lot of prestige and all that. But really, at the core of it, is a very dangerous position, and because you got to put your name on the line, and be damned anything else. We got to go with what right is. So it takes a lot of moral capacity.
I agree with that entirely. I will tell you this. I don't think you would find an immigration judge, past, present, or future, who would believe being an immigration judge is a cush job. I think they've
Immigration job,
been
though. I mean, federal does a lot of work too, but
for the federal judge, yeah, but like I don't no sympathy for the federal judge. I mean, sympathy with the ones. I mean, there was that federal judge whose husband and son were
yeah,
murdered, for example. Obviously, sympathy there. But like, if you're going to become a federal judge and you're not willing to do what is right, then you're in the wrong profession. Same with immigration judges, but they can be fired. And so, I mean, that's a big ask, to ask an immigration judge to put their career on the line when the Trump administration is making clear that it is. I don't think we should be expecting that of any executive branch official. And that's the tragedy. And that was the point. That's why immigration judges should have always been made Article 1 judges. That Congress should have passed that bill. And I, as a big proponent of that, I would have accepted many immigration judges who I didn't agree with getting grandfathered into Article 1 and the protections of not being within the Department of Justice and the Attorney General. I would have accepted all of that because this is so much worse. A completely politicized uh, immigration judiciary where people can just be fired at will now, it
yeah.
seems. I mean, that is just a nightmare scenario. And when the National Guard becomes the immigration judges because Congress didn't make that, no, it's coming because Congress didn't make the IJ's Article 1. When the Attorney General can now make the board issue over 50 decisions, I want to say, since February. I mean, this is wild, wild times. That bill should have passed in the last Congress. ALA, FBA, ABA, all the entities were out for it, but it didn't pass, and it's too bad.
Yeah, and I was like, how can we get them to do it? But it's such a side topic that's too cerebral, I think, for population to understand that's so important and how it affects them.
Yeah,
But yeah, with
whatever.
that hard, you had some good cases to tell us about, so let's just cheer it up.
The judges who are lifetime appointments and who don't have to worry about their jobs being on the line have issued quite the decisions in September, as always. And wait till next month, by the way. This episode of my podcast that published today had 4 decisions. All of them win for non-citizens, and all of them pretty big deals. So, the decisions keep coming. Um, we'll see if I do a BIA decision on your show for the next 4 years. Highly unlikely, given that it's just a nonstop blitzkrieg of poor decisions. But this one is from the Fourth Circuit in Ozurumba v. Bondi, published by the Fourth on September 2nd, 2025. It's on the material support of terrorism, and it's litigated by very good attorneys who are bringing a lot of arguments that the material support of terrorism community, of which I style myself, have been making for a long time, taking from others and stuff. And the Fourth Circuit bit hard. And I think they might be the first circuit to actually have done so. The BIA and the BIA has said there is no duress exception and there is no de minimis exception to the
Yeah,
material support of terrorism, which is
it's
just
crazy. Yeah,
the harshest rule. I mean, come on. Like, one of these BIA decisions that came out during Trump 1, like, I think the woman was like threatened with murder and rape at gunpoint after they killed her husband.
she was a captive or something
So
like
she
that. She
cooked,
had to cook for them. Yeah,
right. So she cooked them breakfast, and so she's like, what the hell are we doing? Like,
crazy.
it's wild, wild stuff. Um, but that's how the case law has developed for a variety of reasons. Well, now in the Fourth Circuit in this decision, not so much about duress and the de minimis exception, but it's the material support bar. Has to be material support. The word material means something.
Oh, true.
Mr. Ozurumba is a Nigerian individual, went to go, he needed a job. His friend said, "Hey, I got a job for you." And they take him out like into the bush, it looks like. He might have been blindfolded. I don't know. It probably knew it was a problem from the get-go. He gets there, it's like this whole camp of gunmen. Still doesn't really know what's going on. Probably had some suspicions. Doesn't really know that it's a camp run by the quote unknown gunmen. end quote, is the name of this group. Some pseudo-political, very violent group in Nigeria. I've never heard of them, but I'm no expert in Nigeria, unlike yourself.
Just the Nigerian marriages.
That's right. Mr. Ozurumba ends up over a multi-month period. Like eventually, he's like, I want to go. I think it's 6 months, and like in part, I think they stopped paying him after 3 months. He's like the chef, and he's like, I want to go, and they're like, you're not going anywhere. And the dissent points out in this case, he ends up cooking something like 8,000 meals for 15 or 17 bosses of the camp. That's a lot of meals, right? The BIA, IJ said that's a material support of terrorism. The Fourth Circuit said, no, it is not. So Nigerian cooking, not the material support of terrorism. Note it down. It's because the material means something. Quote, it suggests that some support may not rise to the level that would disqualify. The INA itself lists a safe house, a transportation, communication, funds, transfer of funds, false documents, weapons giving, explosives, that training, that sort of stuff. That's what the INA lists. Now, that's not a complete list, but the Fourth Circuit says that it's describing all things that, quote, can either be directly used to plan or carry out terrorist activities or can be readily diverted to such use, end quote. Or on a Supreme Court decision, something that lends legitimacy to the terrorist group. That also might count. But simple cooking, that's not something that can be readily diverted to terrorism. And addressing the dissent in the first footnote, I want to say, which also quotes to like Napoleon, it's a wild decision. In the most literal sense, of course, cooking is converted into material support of terrorism, right? When terrorists eat the food, they're converting it into energy, but that's too attenuated to the Fourth Circuit majority. So this is a big deal case. The first one that I'm aware of really putting importance to the word material. That's even bigger, quite frankly, than a de minimis
Yeah.
or duress exception. I would like a duress exception just out of fairness. But like 8,000 meals is not de minimis. That's something. But it's not material because you're going to the purpose of the support or what it could do, and that's a big deal holding out of the Fourth
Was
Circuit.
the previous decision that was a big deal? I think it was for that lady who was forced to cook and stuff. I think Colombia or something like that for some gang group. Was that a BI decision or Supreme Court decision?
I think it's El Salvador, and it's a BIA decision. The Supreme Court hasn't touched the material support of
Interesting, because
terrorism.
that one, that's been a hitter for a lot of people. And if the Fourth Circuit says this, that really opens it up for other circuit lawsuits for people who are hit with this. Then it really cracks it open.
100%. The circuits that have touched this, as I understand it, have been. Some have said you're right. There's no de minimis, or maybe there's no duress exception, and there's reasons. But this is different. This is separate. This is a big deal. And by the way, what you're heading at is also interesting because they talk about Loper Bright in this Fourth Circuit decision. Now, the majority doesn't actually rule on it, but they have this discussion that's important, and that is this. Like there is material support of terrorism case law in the Fourth Circuit. The Fourth Circuit talks about their Barahona decision from a few years ago that would indicate that that might have touched this, either de minimis or duress, something like that. But like it wasn't necessarily central to the Barahona decision. But in any event, the Fourth Circuit is explaining, although again, this is dicta and it's more just like a discussion. Stare decisis, the authority of prior circuit decisions to bind future panels, even with Loper Bright, this majority seems to say is only in regards to the holding of that decision and the party to that decision. So they explain Mr. Barahona remains ineligible for relief. That was the holding of the Barahona decision. But all this other discussion about the material support of terrorism might not be binding, especially when it relied on Chevron deference after Loper Bright. So that's a big, heady issue, and that's not what this decision's about. But I'm certainly always watching to see what the circuits are doing with the Loper Bright arguments post Loper Bright, because it's very important with all this 3 or 4 decades of Chevron deference. And if the Fourth Circuit is open to an interpretation that a past presidential decision is only binding as to the narrow issue it adjudicated and to that specific party, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
But just flagging it to all the circuit warriors out there. Big deal case, but regardless, on the material support, huge decision. It just astonishes me that we don't have a duress exception case yet, because it's just the moral thing to do. But this is a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
And then there's arguments for like the U.S. designated terrorist organization, and then looking back, like they were part of it before it was designated. So could you go and revert back and cover all those people who didn't know? I guess kind of a duress kind of thing too. But just you mentioned Star Decisis. There's an interview. I kind of read the headlines. I haven't read what everything says, so hopefully I'm not misquoting. But apparently, Justice Clarence Thomas is saying legal precedent Star Decisis is not the gospel, and we're going to like focus on overruling that kind of stuff.
Well, he clearly believes that because of what they did with Roe v. Wade 2 terms ago, and what they did with Chevron itself and Loper Bright. But that's one thing for the Supreme Court to say we can overrule stuff. It's another thing. The argument with Loper Bright is that circuit precedent has been fundamentally undermined with Loper Bright, such that it's no longer binding on a new panel. I think that's right. Judge Bumate in dissent went wild in the Ninth Circuit last month. With everything I've been saying, but that's the Ninth Circuit dissent.
How long has it been with Chevron? Is it a year now? The Chevron difference?
A year. It's July of 2024. So a year and a couple months.
It hasn't been anything catastrophic change yet, or has there? Not just immigration.
No, but they are chipping away things like this. What does it mean? Because there's a throwaway line from Loper Bright. A lot of this Loper Bright argument's about a throwaway line from the Supreme Court and Loper Bright, in my opinion, in which they say them overruling Chevron doesn't cast into doubt the effect and stare decisis of prior decisions relying on Chevron deference. But in context, it seems very clear to me, and this is what Judge Bumate is saying in his dissent as well, that the Supreme Court was talking about their own decisions that had relied on Chevron deference, of which there's only like a handful, especially in recent years. To say that Loper Bright does not undermine prior circuit decisions that had relied on Chevron deference, that's crazy, and kind of like, what is the point of Loper Bright if it's just perspective? And especially Justice Roberts is doing this whole thing about how it's the judiciary's role to interpret the statutes, and Chevron is completely untethered to the Constitution. I mean, that is a material fundamental change that should undermine the viability of circuit decisions below going forward, where they relied on Chevron deference. Now, the circuits can come back and say, well, this is, even though that decision relied on Chevron deference, we also believe that's the best reading of the statute, so it continues to bind. Fine. But we're still in the early days of this, and that's why things like this discussion in this Fourth Circuit decision is so interesting.
Hey, everybody, I'm going to jump in really quick to remind you of our community page on circle.so. If you want to join, you have to be a U.S. lawyer, not even immigration lawyers, but if you want to become an immigration lawyer, it's a great place to do it. But also, if you've been practicing a lot and just too busy, it's a great place to reach out and go to catch up on what's going on and have a community there. That's off Facebook, off those kind of systems. Go to our website, immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, click on the community page, and a registration button will pop up, or registration page will pop up, where you can put out your name and contact info, particularly your U.S. bar info, so we can check that online before we add you to the group. Having said all that, let's get back to the show. Going on a tangent, we don't have much time for me to do that, but President Trump had record numbers of judicial appointments first time around. Have those bear any fruit in decision or something like that, or have they kind of revert to the mean? When she wants to go into people in the judiciary, there's an average of how the judges act, or have you tracked that at all? Because it seems like you know the names of each of these people. I don't know the names.
I know quite a few. I don't know all of them. It seems like Trump is quite upset with the judges he appointed. At least some of them. I'm sure he loves some other ones. But I mean, look, I think on the whole, a lot of the judges he appointed at the district court and circuit level probably rule in favor of Republican causes and him more often than not. But in some high-profile things, they're not. And by the way, Loper Bright, Judge Bumate is a Trump appointee from Trump 1. I get Judge Bumate. I don't know him, obviously. He's actually a San Diego Ninth Circuit judge. Seems like a nice guy. Was appointed by Trump. I'll take him at face value that he believes in his judicial philosophies. I don't think he cares much about immigration precedent. The effect of Loper Bright and whether it vacates prior circuit decisions on about agency lawfulness, that's all agencies. That's the
Yeah.
EPA. That's the Department of Labor. That's all the agencies that Republicans historically attack. And so sometimes immigration makes strange bedfellows, and sometimes immigration
Yeah.
precedent is used to pump up or push down those other issues. So when Judge Bumate is going off on a dissent in an immigration case about how prior agency precedent that relied on Chevron deference is bad law, maybe he cares about immigration. I know he cares about some of those other agencies,
Yeah.
though, even though it's happening in immigration
That's what
context.
makes immigration so crazy, wild, difficult to learn because so much of it's put aside, and it's a side effect of other kinds of cases and a side effect of these
Yeah.
decisions. And just like we're probably not going to get to this one because it's not a full decision, but the DACA situation in Texas, where they have a carve out they may do for Texas DACA people and them having a separate code is just the extra work they have to do in system that was set up to have a separate DACA for Texas. So it's all because of court stuff. Potentially, they're maneuvering to use that same kind of understanding of the law to do carve outs in other areas of immigration or other things. So,
It's crazy, but like like Justice Alito and Justice Thomas, Judge Hannon with the DACA case is also a W. Bush appointee. So putting the president to it is not always a bellwether of
yeah,
what's going to happen, which is a
yeah,
good thing. It's a good thing.
it's one of the resiliencies of the
Should be. But
system to
that's
prevent accumulation of centralization of power. So.
it's a good, how immigration bleeds into other areas is a good segue into the next case I wanted to discuss, which is Hewitt versus the United States. Actually published on June 26th by the Supreme Court, but I didn't get around to it until last month because it wasn't a directly immigration case, and the BIA keeps publishing so many decisions that I can't keep up and have a spare moment to do an extra case. But I finally found some last month. It's about the First Step Act. And I'm not going to get into all the nuances of that, but at the end of the day, this guy's yeah, I think he had a lot of armed robberies. And it would have given him a lot more time in prison or made it so he got 305 years in prison. He had a lot of bank robberies. That's what he had.
People still do
305
bank
years. I'm
robberies.
sorry. I don't care what he did. That's what it is. It's like, but I think it's because like prior bank robberies with a federal offense, and the federal offense is always firearm in possession of a felon. Who knows? But some of these bank robberies, portions of the sentences got vacated by which of the bank robberies, by which time the First Step Act applied. So even though they're old bank robberies, he might be able to benefit Mr. Hewitt from sentence reduction and maybe even release. We need not concern ourselves with the nuances of the First Step Act. The point is, though, for immigration reasons, is all the things that the Supreme Court majority, Justice Jackson writing the decision, says about vacated criminal sentences. Very important with matter of Thomas and Thompson from the Attorney General, and then all the slew of BIA decisions published this year, not to mention matter of Pickering from 2005 or 2006, talking about how if a conviction is vacated, well, it still might mean something for immigration purposes. Not so fast, in my opinion, and many others, and I'll give hats off to the individual who sent me this decision, actually flagged it for me. David Satnarine actually sent this to me and flagged it for me because of what the Supreme Court's saying about vacated convictions. Congress legislates with presumptions, says the Supreme Court. Quote, one such presumption is that vacated court orders are void ab initio and thus lack any prospective legal effect. By operation of legal fiction, the law acts as though the vacated order never occurred, end quote. No discussion on the reasons it was vacated, whether it was because he was a good guy, if it was for immigration purposes, all of that. Of course, this isn't an immigration case, but that is what Supreme Court is saying. Congress legislates with that presumption. So presumably they had that presumption when they legislated the INA, right? Supreme Court gives an example about how this would apply even with civil consequences of a vacated criminal conviction, talking about some hypothetical where like Congress gives loans, but not if you've been convicted. Immigration, also civil consequence of a criminal conviction, right? quote, a criminal defendant whose judgment of conviction has been vacated is to be treated going forward as though he was never convicted.
Wait, so it's not it's like
Woo!
so they were convicted, but then they go and vacate it after the fact?
Yes, that's what happens here. And we're talking about in the context of whether he's First Step Act eligible. And of course, Supreme Court also giving a hypothetical about whether someone like this would be eligible for a civil law where you're only eligible if you don't have a conviction for like money or something. Immigration is civil law. Immigration depends on whether the conviction has been vacated or not. And the Supreme Court is saying Congress legislates with a presumption that convictions are vacated and they're done. And just then also giving all these quotes about how the law is to treat people with vacated convictions as if they never had one.
Wow, it's a big deal.
Obviously, it's not an immigration case, but when the Supreme Court speaks, we listen. And there's big things in this decision, authored by Justice
Wow.
Jackson, with I want to say Kavanaugh and Roberts, in addition to Sotomayor, Kagan, and well, that's 5. I believe
You
that's the
got
5.
enough, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it's Justice Amy Coney Barrett. I'm not sure, but big
Yeah,
deal.
big deal.
Think about Hewitt. People are already arguing Hewitt, including me, in
I mean, this
immigration
is
court.
massive for criminalization cases.
Potentially, or there'll be a distinction.
Well, that's some opening there. We'll probably in a year or so have an article in the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine about it. By the way, we'd love to have an
Me
article
again.
from you or one of your colleagues and partners.
I've already given you articles, so don't act like I haven't. We'll get
Well,
another one.
congratulations on your partner as well. I interviewed him. The gentleman.
I saw that. I gave him flack for going on your show before he went on mine.
I think I've had every partner at KPPT on the show at this point.
I don't think you've had Ed Ramos and Carl. You've had Carl, and Lauren Epstein is with Carl. So there are a few more to touch. And by the way, very much recommend Ed and Lauren. And I'm just joking. David Kim should have obviously been on your podcast. We're happy to have him at the firm. He actually was at the firm to start his career, as you know, I guess, and then he had a thriving practice in New York before he became an immigration judge, a great respected immigration judge who was fired after his probationary period was done in violation of the law, citing only to Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, which probably will eventually be found illegal, and you're going to have to pay these people a lot of money. That'll be the problem of another administration. This is the whole thing. It's very offensive to me that you're firing immigration judges and just saying we don't need you anymore when obviously they need
It's
you, and
purely
it's all
political. Yeah, it's
political.
purely political.
And there have been immigration, to be very clear, with David Kim and I's, judicial philosophies on immigration probably align in a lot of places, but like there have been immigration judges fired who I'm sure I disagree with
Yeah.
vehemently.
Someone reached out. I had one that was
And-
like really the other bar side of the bar, but she reached out to me. We're gonna have her like do some stuff. But he's so into immigration
and
law
I
too. It's
am
amazing. He like loves hard, complicated cases, studying all night. That guy's he's a
David,
hardcore immigration attorney.
smart
Yeah.
guy. And my point is just to finish that. Like I am just as upset that those judges who I may or may not agree with have been fired as David Kim. This is not
It just
right.
destroys
It's
the
not right, and
reputation
good
of
on you for
the
giving
position.
up.
That means it's just pure political appointee. Like it's pure politics. Is like that's it. When you could do stuff like that.
These people have lives. David Kim gave up a whole
Yeah.
thriving practice. Florence Chamberlain left her position with kind, drove from Mexico to California in like 3 days to take her position. These are just minor drops in the bucket examples. The whole thing is wild to me.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to. I got one more case.
Yeah.
If
We
you've
got 10
got
minutes.
time though. Fleurimond v. Bondi out of the First Circuit, argued by the ACLU New Hampshire, who just are killing it all the time with setting up Kim and his crew about cat protection as the BIA continues its onslaught against cat protection. Here's the First Circuit coming out and saying, no. Low-level torture, torture from low-level officials can cut it under the Convention Against Torture. And the regulatory requirement that it be for a prescribed purpose does not require that you show that the torturer intend to directly engage in torture. You have to show that the actor is doing one of the prescribed purposes reasons from the regulations, such as, for example, to punish them, to get a confession from them, whatever the regulations are saying. And that what they would do or did caused torture. It need not be the intent to torture. And this focus on the government trying to torture you, it can be a low level official acting under color of law. That's Bill Barr himself in matter of was it OFF or OSFA? I don't even know. Well, the Bill Barr decision. Quote, a petitioner satisfies the purpose requirement by establishing that the motivation of the purported torture would be one of those set out in the regulations, while he meets the intent requirement by merely showing that the torturer desires for the immediate physical act to inflict severe pain or suffering, end quote. So it doesn't have to be this grand plan to torture someone, to hate them, to overcome them, as the BIA would have us believe in their multitude of decisions. Nor need you focus on the government itself at all. It could be a low-level individual acting under color of law. So other important distinctions on this very complicated issue. Fleurimond v. Bondi out of the First Circuit. Read it, especially if you're in the first, because the first does seem to have the best recent CAT case law. First citation everywhere, but certainly in the First Circuit, as the BIA continues to publish decision like month after month, sometimes week after week, just making it impossible to get CAT protection. First Circuit trumps circuit, and First Circuit trumps BIA in the relevant circuit. Remember it. Fleurimond v. Bondi.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. They're interesting decisions. So we've had a streak of these. You've always come with the good cases, but some eye-opening ones that are potential game changers. And so, in all this darkness, these twinkles of light are there of like some rationality coming. So that's good.
I didn't intend it this way, but it has been that focus on the circuits does seem to be a bit of a light in this darkness during the Trump years, which was not my intention, but it is certainly something that I enjoy providing.
Well, I do want to mention that people that we talked about earlier probably going to be at the AILA conference, California AILA conference. They could catch you the last session on Saturday to come take a picture with you. Any other events you're doing, bars, so federal bar and stuff like that?
That's a good point though. When is this conference? I just got the invitation
Yeah,
today.
it is. Check my email.
It was in it was in October of last year, and here we are in
It's like a month from
October.
now, the 17th or something like that. I think.
Oh my
Yeah, they're
goodness.
getting it behind the scenes. They're getting out to us late.
Yeah. No, I don't. I hope I can make it. It just occurred to me that, like, I look at that, I'm like, oh, that must be months away. Well, I hope I can make
Luckily, it's
it
local. You could
if
drive.
it's
That's
the
the good thing
night.
about it. So you don't have to get the plane and
Yeah.
hotel plans for us because it's easy to go to.
I got a merits hearing in Miami on the 19th, so hopefully I can make it. But if I can, I'd love to see you and everybody else. And I'm huge fan of the AILA California
Yeah, it should
conference.
be a fun one. And in Long Beach, a lot of fun stuff to do. I was hoping like people from other states to come too. But I think it's California people. If a lot of people have been to Long Beach already, but if you haven't, it's not LA, it's not San Diego, it's somewhere in between, but it's still nice and worth going to. They have the Queen Mary there and all that.
It's where Snoop Dogg
True.
is from, if I'm listening to his music
Yes,
correct.
Long Beach. That's right.
Is that where Muscle Beach is? That must be why they invited me.
Somewhere around there. Huntington Beach is a little close by. They have this aquarium that take the kids there too. It's not just kind of like a dinner area you walk by. It's not bad. And they come to LA. It's a lot of traffic. So I'm like, tourism in LA is dying really bad right now. And I can imagine just with the traffic alone. It's probably because of Trump stuff. A lot of Canadians aren't coming to Las Vegas and LA because they're scared to come. But let's see what happens. I got 3 minutes. Anything else you want to share? Obviously, the Immigration Review podcast. Catch that. That's one of the top immigration podcasts that they're out there. They're doing a great job consistently every week. And I do catch that you're doing more interviews. You're coming in my territory, but it's all good.
No. I still only do like 5 or 6 a year. Besides, mine are wonky and I don't know, mine are wonky and weird. Yours are more fun, I think. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
like it's the part of me that makes me love immigration law the most is just learning biographies. It's like the initial consultation when someone comes in, so what's going
Yeah.
on, and just learning about them. And so I don't know if how interested my listeners are me getting to know someone's background, but it's just always like learning more about colleagues. And my the thing they offered me for the AILA conference California is the first day. It's about how to like mentally deal and cope with all the stuff that's happening professionally, personally, all that. And from talking with one person the other day when the interviews, it came as like for me a lot of it just talking with other practitioners that are going through the same nonsense. And it's like we're
Yeah,
preaching to the
that's
choir, but
true.
it's just a relief to have somebody who knows what you're dealing with because it's very hard. We live such a unique life as immigration lawyers during this time that other lawyers can't understand it, and it's so publicized in news. Everyone's emotional and politicized about it, but it's like literally, I'm like, dude, they're hassling us about like this form where they're giving it to us wrong, or H-1B situation, or if right now asylum renewal $100. Like this is like a crazy. Like it's people they don't have a system to pay. I've been ruling judges. They're saying you got to go back and pay old fees, and
Right,
they're like, "What are you talking about?" This is
right.
like, and so it's like other people are going to understand the gravity of
That's
this per se. I mean, they not don't.
It's not. It's just not possible though. And thank you for all you do. It really is important. Providing audio, providing talking, verbalizing what people are going through, and explaining. I will tease at the end of this. I do have an interview coming up. I haven't done it yet with a former immigration judge, a mentor of mine. They're all being able to start talking
Yeah.
now. All the individuals who have been fired and who have taken the fork. Um, the fork is just about done, and they were getting paid through October. We are in October, so maybe he won't be the first of the recently former IJs that I talked to, but tease that. I'll be pushing that out
Well, cool.
soon.
We need people on the immigration bar, especially that go to removal defense and stuff. So let's go to having, unloading these judges, but on the other end, we're coming back and using them to help the fight because it's just a lot of work that needs to be done. And they have inside, not inside knowledge, a sense of revealing secrets, or something like that, but they just know how the system works and able to handle it much better.
I hope to reveal some secrets. We'll see what
Well, good
happens.
stuff. Kevin, I appreciate you coming on the show again. Immigration Review Podcast, and also Gregg, the two G's, at kktplaw.com. I send all immigration, removal of defense, asylum cases over to Kevin. I recommend you do so too if you don't handle those cases. He's got the systems and everything set up to really, and he's, he cares. You fly over the country. I'm surprised how much patience you have.
I do, and I appreciate the Fed court litigation and the complex USCIS. I'm happy to
Very
do it
cool.
all.
Well, thanks again, Kevin. We'll reach out. Hopefully, get a chance to talk outside the podcast soon because we've been so busy. But if not, I'll catch you in November. Awesome.
Thanks, John. Talk to you soon.
Thank you all for listening. Kevin is so kind to come on the show. I'm always really happy with what we have and our discussions. I just wish I had more time to talk with him. We're both pretty busy as you are as well. And so we don't get to have the long conversations that I like to, even though we don't live too far apart, different cities, San Diego and LA. But it's just hard to do anything. It's hard to scratch your head sometimes with how busy things are and how much stuff is on your plate. As you get older, I was a kid, like, I was not busy at all. All the stuff I thought I was busy in college and in law school, I wasn't busy at all compared to what I am right now. I just wish I knew I could do all this stuff and juggle all these things at once and still be doing good at it when I was younger. I think it's just a laziness or not being pushed hard enough. You could do more, believe in yourself, all that kind of stuff. So the same with you. You could do much more than you expect. You just kind of got to get pushed to it sometimes, and it really comes out. But at the same time, you got to manage your stress levels and all that. Some stress is not bad, I guess, but just get overwhelmed. Yeah, life is there's no manual for it. So people look like that, but I'll figure it out. No one does. They just put on a good show. We're just going on day by day. Just try to do your best to just get better compared to where last year. I had to become a more righteous person in your dealings and your work, and that's the most important thing, in my opinion. Well, God bless. Be safe. I'll catch you all next time. Bye bye. If you like this episode, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, where we post the latest statistics, tips, and more. And stay tuned for more from the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast.